Hello and welcome. I am live from Pellam's Wasteland, and I'm here with another episode of Pellam's Wasteland Reads for you all, this time covering Fool's Crow by James Welch. Um, I have not read any other books by James Welch, but I liked this one a lot. This is historical fiction set in apparently in Montana. There's a map at the back that shows kind of precisely where everything happens. But in Montana, in the aftermath of the Civil War, kind of 1860s, 1870s, and follows a specifically a young man, although there are a number of other characters who appear, who is a Native American. He is a member of a kind of the smallest group level is the Lone Eaters, and then they call themselves the Bicunis, and I guess that's either kind of the traditional the native name for the Blackfeet tribe, or that's sort of a subset of Blackfeet tribe. I don't know exactly how all those things relate to each other, but he's a young man at the start. He's, I think, 17 or 18, and ends up involved in a lot of the struggles going on with his people over the course of the story. Um, he's his first name is White Man's Dog, and then Fool's Crow is the name that he gets after they go on a horse raid. Um, and he is shot and falls down as if dead, but turns out he was just in shock and ends up shooting and killing the Crow war chief who shot him, and so his name becomes Fool's Crow for fooling the Crow war chief. Anyway, I liked this book a whole lot. This is I think really a really excellent demonstration of historical fiction as a genre that is really interested in getting into the the opinions of and the sort of the way of life of people, and not just like the material life of a historical people, but of the kind of internal life of a people as best we can now. And that's a difficult task, but that's one of the things that great fiction sets out to do, right, is to get into the lives, the internal lives of characters, and understand kind of who they are and how they see themselves and all of that sort of stuff. Anyway, so we go on this journey with White Man's Dog, or Fool's Crow, and he goes on horse raids. Ends up there's this sort of back and forth of the raiding of the different tribes with each other, as well as the invasive influence of the Napaquan, I think is how it's spelled. Basically, the white Americans, the Anglo Americans, um, from back east, who they're I don't remember the terms they use, but they use a lot of, one of the interesting things is whenever the communication is between the American, like the U.S. cavalry, basically, and the natives of this part of Montana, the terminology is always based on basically how things would be explained in the terms of the native language, the Blackfeet language. So you get things like they call the U.S. president grandfather. There's a sometimes like great grandfather, to refer to the idea of his kind of standing as a political leader, essentially. And there's kind of fun and interesting things like that. But obviously, this is a period where there is growing settlement in the West, and gradually, in particular, a lot of the land is being taken over by homesteads. Right, it's one of the big issues being that the territory that would otherwise support other hunted animals in particular like uh, plains bison, as the sort of obvious case, is being gradually taken over by white American farmsteads, and they're dividing up all of the land and taking over and putting in, supporting cattle instead of um, bison, and all these kind of gradual but very deliberate changes to the environment that are making it more difficult for the native peoples to live, as well as, like, there's a real culture clash of things like stealing horses, right? That one of the running things in the story is these tribal clashes between different tribes of stealing horses. But as soon as you steal a horse from a farmstead, then they complain to the U.S. cavalry in the area, and that becomes a real problem. And so um, this culture clash, this difficulties. One of the other things is that they've figured out about what they call the medicine line, which is the border with Canada. And so sometimes native people will flee across the border basically to avoid the U.S. cavalry. And it's, it's a sort of continual back and forth of this, very real culture clash. But it is presented not just as the kind of historical details that have come down to us from that time, but also the sort of cultural challenges, and especially the sort of attempt to mythologize the experiences that these native peoples are going through. And that's one of the big kind of thematic elements, is the way that Fool's Crow in particular experiences these very real issues, and mythologizes them for himself, essentially. And there's sort of an open question of exactly, like, how all of these things specifically happen. So for instance, early on, one of the kind of instigating events of the story is one of Fool's Crow's friends. He's experienced a dream, and the dream involves Coldmaker, the sort of spirit of winter, basically, who has given him a quest, and he attempts to succeed at this quest and fails at it, and it kind of drives him not totally crazy, but it really causes a lot of problems for the whole tribe, basically, but especially for this young man. And there's sort of an open question about the degree to which that is, a sort of mythologically caused an agent that is opposed to Fast Horse, this character, or whether that is, his guilt eating at him, and kind of like a, almost a Freudian psychoanalytic sense, the idea of him being kind of unable to reconcile his own failures, and to come to terms with what he's done and all that sort of stuff. But there's a number of places like that. There's, missions given by Raven, the mythological Raven, who's both sort of a real Raven and also this kind of trickster and advisor character, um, and all of these things that have to do with the mythology of Sun and Moon, and their son Morning Star, and his son False Morning Star, and the the wife of Morning Star, Feather Woman, who is exiled from the heavens because of a failure of her own, and brings all sorts of hardship into the world as she returns. And the world is not on its correct footing anymore, and all of the way that this kind of mythologizing of these stories also becomes part of how Fool's Crow and the people around him think about the lives that they're living, and the way that they come to terms with their own experiences, which is really good. I think this is a really excellent book. Yeah, there's not a whole lot else to say about it other than a, a really good book that you should check out if you're interested in this type of really well crafted historical fiction about a period and a setting that I don't know a whole lot about, which is part of what attracted me to it. A friend of mine online suggested this book as a really good look at this kind of particular flavor of Native American history and culture. And I, yeah, thought it was really well done. So, Fool's Crow, yeah, check it out if you get a chance. It's my copy was like 400 pages, so it's not super short, but it's not unbearably long or anything like that. And it's really well done, totally worth checking out as a like really well crafted piece of historical fiction. So yeah, that's I think all I have to say on that. If you have read Fool's Crow, or I guess if you want to read it, you can comment about that. If you have anything similar that you'd want to suggest, feel free to leave a comment about that. Um, Otherwise, I hope you are continuing to enjoy Pelham's Wasteland reads books. I think I'm going to separate out the series in the playlists. My idea was to do like a one fiction playlist and one nonfiction playlist, so it's easier for people to find things. I don't know how important that would be, but that sort of makes sense to me as a way to distinguish between different episodes of this series. Um, but yeah, other than that, I hope you have enjoyed. I've been live from Pelham's Wasteland, and I will see you next time. Take care, everybody.